You wake up, not to an alarm, to that feeling, that low hum of dread sitting behind your ribs before your eyes are even open. You reach for your phone, you open your banking app, and for a second you just hold your breath. That number on the screen, whatever it is, defines the texture of your entire day. It decides whether you grab the no-name brand coffee or the kicking horse, whether you drive or take the TTC, whether you check your kid's field trip permission form with excitement or with quiet panic about the $35 fee attached to it. This is the story of your life at every wealth level in Canada. Not the glossy magazine version, the real one. The version that smells like the inside of a Loblaws at 9 p.m. when you're doing the math in your head before you reach the checkout. Let's start at the bottom and be honest about what it actually feels like. Your household brings in less than $30,000 a year after tax. In Canada, roughly 1 in 10 people live below the official poverty line. You are one of them. And the worst part isn't the money, it's the math. The constant, grinding, never-ending math. You stand in the produce aisle of No Frills, and you're not choosing between what's healthy and what's not. You're choosing between bananas and toilet paper. Grocery prices across Canada climbed over 20% in 3 years. The food bank lineups in Toronto and Vancouver stretch around entire city blocks now, and the people standing in them look exactly like you. They have jobs. They're just not jobs that cover rent and food in the same month. Your rent, if you're lucky enough to have a place, swallows 60, sometimes 70% of your income. In the GTA, the average one-bedroom apartment now asks around $2,300 a month. That leaves you with the scraps. And every month, you perform the same ritual. You sit at the kitchen table with your phone calculator open, and you decide which bill gets paid and which one gets ignored. You don't think about retirement. You don't think about investing. You think about Thursday. Because Thursday is payday, and Wednesday night the fridge is empty. The mental load at this level isn't just stress. It's a full-time job in itself. Studies call it decision fatigue. You call it Tuesday. You've climbed. Your household pulls in around $74,000 after tax, right around the Canadian median. On paper, this is supposed to be fine. This is what middle class looks like. But here's the lie. It doesn't feel like the middle of anything. It feels like running on a treadmill someone keeps tilting upward. You have a car, you have a phone plan, maybe you even have a small TFSA with a few $1,000s in it. But the villain at this level has a name, and its name is housing. The average home in Canada sells for around $660,000. In Toronto, it's over $1 million. In Greater Vancouver, a detached house averages nearly $2 million. You stare at those numbers the way you'd stare at the menu of a restaurant you accidentally walked into. It's not for you. So you rent. Or you stretch into a mortgage that makes your stomach lurch every time you think about renewal. The Bank of Canada dropped rates through 2024, settling at 2.25% by early 2026, but your 5-year fixed rate is still hovering around 4%. Your monthly mortgage payment eats close to half your pre-tax household income. And that's before property tax, before insurance, before the furnace that's making that noise again. You contribute to your RRSP when you can. The limit is $32,490 for 2025, but you're putting in maybe $3,000 or $4,000. Your TFSA gets a few hundred here and there, nowhere near the $7,000 annual cap. You know you're supposed to be saving. You know the math. You just can't make the math work. You go out for dinner once a month. You feel guilty about it. Then you feel angry that you feel guilty about it. This is the emotional treadmill of the Canadian median. You're not poor enough for sympathy, and you're not rich enough for comfort. Something shifts. Your household income crosses $120,000, maybe $150,000. You're in the top 20%, and for the first time, you can breathe. Not deeply, but you can breathe. The difference isn't luxury, it's margin. There's a gap between what comes in and what goes out, and that gap changes your brain chemistry. You stop thinking in terms of survival and start thinking in terms of strategy. You max out your TFSA. You're putting serious money into your RRSP and actually getting meaningful tax refunds. At your marginal rate, every dollar you contribute saves you 30 to 40 cents in taxes. You open a first home savings account and start stacking the $8,000 annual contribution. You discover the phrase asset allocation, and it doesn't sound like a foreign language anymore. You buy a place, maybe not in Toronto proper, maybe in Hamilton or Barrie or Gatineau, somewhere the housing market hasn't completely devoured your deposit. You negotiate a rate. You have a broker. You have options. The wealthiest 20% of Canadian households hold about 65% of the country's total net worth, averaging $3.3 million per household. You're at the bottom edge of that group, and you don't feel wealthy at all. But you've crossed a threshold that most Canadians never will. You're building. This is where the game changes, from surviving to strategizing, from reacting to planning, and it's addictive. Now, here's the twist nobody talks about. You and your partner pull in $250,000 combined, $250,000. You should be set. You should be building a fortress, but you're not, because you're broke. The BMW X5 lease is $900 a month. The kids are in French immersion private school. That's $22,000 per child. Your house in North York has a mortgage that makes your eyes water. You vacation in Whistler at Christmas and Turks and Caicos in March. You tell yourself you've earned it. And you have. But here's what lifestyle creep does. It takes every raise, every bonus, every promotion, and converts it into obligation. Your lifestyle expands to fill and then exceed your income, like water filling every crack in a basement. You have $14,000 in your TFSA. Your RRSP is half what it should be. You have a line of credit with a $50,000 balance that you try not to look at. You spend more on your SUV payment than most Canadians spend on rent, and you still feel like you're barely keeping up, because everyone around you is doing the same thing. The bottom 40% of Canadian households by wealth hold just 3.3% of the country's net worth. But here's the dark punchline. Some of those people earn more than you'd ever guess. They just spend every cent of it performing a lifestyle they can't actually afford. This is the most dangerous level, because it looks like success. You cross a threshold, not an income threshold, a mindset threshold. Somewhere around $500,000 to $1 million in net worth, maybe more depending on your age, something fundamental changes. You stop trading time for money, and you start trading money for time. Your RRSP is maxed. Your TFSA is maxed and growing tax-free. You own rental property, maybe a duplex in Ottawa or a condo in Calgary that cash flows positive. You have a non-registered portfolio throwing off dividends. Your money is making money while you sleep, and the compounding is starting to feel less like math and more like gravity. You don't check your bank account with dread anymore. You check your portfolio with curiosity. You think about things like, tax loss harvesting, and corporate class funds. You have a financial planner, not because you need to be told what to do, but because your situation is genuinely complex. The biggest shift here is time. You could stop working and sustain your lifestyle for years, maybe indefinitely. And that knowledge changes how you show up at work. You negotiate differently. You say no differently. You aren't desperate, and people can feel it. Freedom isn't a number. It's the absence of the 2 a.m. ceiling stare. It's Tuesday morning without the calculator. Above roughly $350,000 in individual income, or several million in net worth, you enter a different atmosphere. The air is different here. The rules are different. You don't think about money the same way anymore. You think about structures, family trusts, holding companies, estate freezes, inter vivos gifts. Your accountant has an accountant. You own assets that appreciate faster than most Canadians earn. Your portfolio didn't just survive the last market correction, it fed on it. You bought when others panicked. You have access to private equity, to pre-IPO placements, to opportunities that aren't listed on any exchange a retail investor can access. But here's what changes most. The conversation shifts from how do I make money to how do I keep it? And then, eventually, how do I pass it on? You think about your grandchildren's education. You think about your family name on a building. You think about philanthropic foundations and donor-advised funds and how to structure gifts that outlive you by a century. The game at this level isn't about lifestyle, it's about legacy. And the people who play it well barely look rich at all. They drive modest cars. They live in the same house they bought 20 years ago, because they learned the lesson that everyone at level 4 is still refusing to hear. Wealth isn't what you spend, it's what you keep. Here's what none of these levels tell you on their own. The gap between each one isn't just income, it's habits. It's the decision you make in the Loblaws aisle. It's the TFSA contribution you automate in January. It's the lifestyle you refuse to inflate when the promotion hits. Canada is a country where the top 20% hold nearly 2/3 of the wealth, and the bottom 40% share just over 3%. That gap isn't just an economic fact. It's a gravitational force, and it pulls harder the lower you are. But the most important insight is this. Movement between levels is possible, but it is never accidental. Nobody drifts into financial freedom. You build it deliberately in 1,000 small decisions that nobody else sees. So the next time you wake up and reach for that phone, before you open the app, before the number hits your eyes, ask yourself one question. What level am I building toward? Because the answer to that question, not the number, is what defines your life. If this changed how you think about money, hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.